But this really got to me today when I got an email from Zach Gelb at about 2 o'clock this afternoon that says, for the most part, the New York Mets are open to selling 25% of their team.
Hello, everyone, and welcome inside our SNY studios. I'm Michelle Yu. Some breaking news just into SNY regarding the New York Mets and their ownership. Fred Wilpon and Jeff Wilpon have released the following statement. As Sterling Equities announced in December, we are engaged in discussions to settle a lawsuit brought against us and other Sterling partners and members of our families by the trustee in the Madoff bankruptcy. We are not permitted to comment on these confidential negotiations while they are ongoing. However, to address the air of uncertainty created by this lawsuit and to provide additional assurance that the New York Mets will continue to have the necessary resources to fully compete and win, we are looking at a number of potential options, including the addition of one or more strategic partners. To explore this, we have retained Steve Greenberg, a managing director at Allen & Company, as our advisor. Regardless of the outcome of this exploration, Sterling will remain the principal ownership group of the Mets and continue to control and manage the team's operations. The Mets have been a major part of our families for more than 30 years, and that is not going to change. As we have said before, we are totally committed to having the Mets again become a World Series winner. Our fans and all New Yorkers deserve nothing less. Now, Fred Wilpon, Jeff Wilpon, and Steve Greenberg will discuss today's announcement on a conference call at 2:15 p.m., which SNY will carry live. Of course, stay tuned to SNY for complete details and further information on this story. I'm Michelle Yu. Let's send it back to our regularly scheduled programming now.
Thank you, Michelle, for throwing it back to me. Let me just reiterate what they basically said, and instead of using public relations terminology, I'm going to use the everyday man's terminology. That's why I loved being in public relations for years and being on the other side. It's just a bunch of bullshit, really. Here's what it says. Dear Mets fans, because Bernie Madoff was a greedy son of a bitch, and because we too were greedy and made a lot of money off of Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scam, the trustee in the Bernie Madoff situation is suing us for as much as $1 billion. Yes, that's $1 billion with a B, not an M, billion, B as in billion. As such, we're fucking screwed. So what we have to do is sell part of our team, because if we don't and we lose our lawsuit, we may lose the Mets, because $1 billion is a lot of money, and that's about what our baseball organization is worth. So if we don't bring in a secondary partner to help bail us out of this mess, and the judge rules against us, we are done. Sincerely, Fred Wilpon. That's what he meant to say. It's unbelievable if you can imagine this. But just from a pure business standpoint, there is rumor out there that the true number that this guy, who is I guess the trustee in the whole case, seriously believes that the Mets made up to $1 billion off the coattails of Bernie Madoff's schemes. Now, I have no proof of this whatsoever. I have no evidence. There has been nothing reported as such, but I firmly believed that they were in serious trouble a long time ago, even when they were denying that there was any financial repercussions to what Madoff did. And I still believe that on this day, the 28th day of January in the year 2011, that they were aware that they were making fraudulent money off of Mr. Madoff. Why do I say this? There's no proof, so I can only be an Oliver Stone conspiracy theorist here. Well, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what I'm doing. But when you consider how close they were to this guy, and we made the conclusion on this very program that Bernie's kid knew what was going on when it was going on way back when, that the Wilpons would probably have known just as well. And so as far as I'm concerned, I feel no sympathy for this family. They have dug a hole that is so deep that they now have to sell 25% of the baseball team. And if they had brains, if they had any kind of compassion for the people who root for their team, what they would have done is put the entire team up for sale to end the misery of the last 32 years. And it's funny because I didn't get the audio from this. I probably should have. They had a press conference on the phone, a conference call earlier today, and Fred Wilpon wanted the fans to be perfectly calm and clear in understanding that even if they sell 25% of the Metropolitans Baseball Club, that the Wilpon family would still be in charge of making decisions in the day-to-day operation of the baseball club. Well, boy, I'll tell you what, I could have just heard the sigh of relief from Queens to Long Island to New Jersey to Connecticut. Everybody was so thrilled when they heard that wonderful, solid news. Thank God they're not going to give up complete control of the team, which is precisely what people want them to do, which is precisely the right thing to do, which is precisely what they should do because of this mess that they've gotten themselves in, and it's therefore precisely what they won't do. So, there is my little rant. Among the names that have been brought up, Tom is right on the money with two, saying Charles Wang would be a good investor. He, of course, the owner of the New York Islanders. And then there is Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA, two potentially strong investors. One other name that got thrown out there, just for shits and giggles, I don't think this would happen, was Jerry Seinfeld. But you never know. Jerry has been a lifetime Mets fan, and he's got a lot of money. He doesn't spend that much money anymore because he doesn't have much to do, it certainly doesn't seem. So maybe that'll happen. Or maybe Nelson Doubleday and the Doubleday family will come back and they'll go back into a partnership just like it was in the good old days when they knew how to win. Boy, did you ever think that Doubleday's getting rid of their share would have meant as much as it did, Viking Mike? Holy cow, did it ever. But, hey, who knows? Who knows? I'll tell you what, it would be comical if Seinfeld did it. It certainly would. And I'm sure he would put the Wilpons in their place in any way he could. But, you know, again, a 25% ownership, a minority ownership in a baseball team is really, when you think about it, insignificant. You reap the benefits, but you don't make the decisions. And so I would think that it would have to take a person of lesser stature to perhaps do something like this, maybe an unknown entity. You know, I was thinking to myself, well, what about Mikhail Prokhorov? Nobody's mentioned him. Prokhorov will not be a 25% owner of anything. If he's going to own something, it's all or not, because he wouldn't be able to sit back and not make decisions. I think the same probably could be said of Mark Cuban, too. This is a guy who, on the basketball court, gets up, talks to fans, talks to referees, talks to the players, and things of that nature, and makes almost every decision for the Dallas Mavericks as an organization. So I can't see him being a 25% owner of the Mets and not having full control. Now, if he were to buy 25% with the notion that in a couple of years it would turn into a full deal where he took 100% ownership, maybe I could see something like that happening. I would love it, personally. People keep saying, well, I heard this today all over sports radio, well, why would you want Mark Cuban? The guy's never won a championship. Well, maybe it's he hasn't surrounded himself with the right people. Maybe it's not his real calling. Let him come here. Let him come here and let him do what he does. I think it would be a hell of a lot more fun than it is right now with this Wilpon family in charge. But that's what we got for now. There's some names that have been tossed around, and believe it or not, as much as they say they weren't in financial jeopardy, don't believe the hype. They were, and it's to the tune of as much as $1 billion. There's your Wilpon family.